Hey there, this is Kurt Hollowell with a tutorial on the procedural spaceships package on the Unity Asset Store. I'm going to go ahead and drop into Unity. If you've downloaded the package already, you'll see a structure kind of like this. Under plugins, there'll be a procedural spaceships folder. And first thing you have to do is move this editor folder. Editor scripts need to be in an editor folder under assets, but you can't upload them that way. So when you first download the package, go ahead and just move that editor script under assets, then you're good to go. And then let's go ahead and under the scenes folder, you'll see 5 example scenes. I'm just in designer 1 right now. So let's go ahead and click on designer 1 and hit play. And you'll see a bunch of spaceships getting generated. Let's go ahead and click on the scene tab. And in the hierarchy, you can see we have 5 of these ship designer objects. So I'm going to click on one of them and focus on it. So you can see there are some splines here dictating the shape. And I'm going to hide this. It says show poly estimate. That's showing this black frame. We'll talk a little more about that later, but I'm just going to hide that. So we'll just see the splines here. And you can click on any of these handles and start moving them around and notice that the ship gets generated inside the shape of these splines. So that's kind of the whole point of the latest update, is that you can create the general look of your spaceship and generate an endless amount of variety inside that. So let's go ahead and start with a new scene, and we can just start from scratch, and we'll go over exactly how to create your own ship designer frame. So let's just go new scene, and I'm just going to save this scene as a demo. So the first thing we want to do is create a new ship designer object. So I just created a new object and added the ship designer script to it. Now you'll see we have 3 splines. There's red, which is like basically the general shape of your ship. That is the outline. Then you also have a height, top and bottom, green and white. So I'm just going to go through, to start, all of the parameters on this ship designer script. And then we'll also show you how to design some cool spaceships. So first we have the construction section. There's 2 areas to drop in prefabs. You can see a little more about this in the documentation, but basically the AI prefab will be the highest level component. And you know what? I'm actually going to explain this, I'm going to go over and look at some ships that have already been created, and then we'll get into looking at how to create them in a second. So if I drop this down, if we generate a ship here, you can see that under the ship designer, these ships get generated, and there's 2 objects. There's a ship model and a ship object with a number after, and a model with a number after it. So if you were to drag a prefab in here, then this highest level object that gets created would be that prefab. So any AI scripts you want to hook in, colliders, rigid bodies, anything like that should go under the AI prefab. That's just the highest level component of the generated ship. Next, you can also hook in a model prefab, and for that would be the actual model of the spaceship that has the mesh render component on it. So if you have any scripts that are doing funky things with the mesh renderer, like tweening colors or anything like that, then you'll want to attach that to a model prefab. And so for both of these, just for your prefabs, just create an empty transform with all the scripts you need on them, drag and drop them in here, and then once you hit generate, it'll generate a new ship, and you can have all your scripts hooked up. Okay, next we have model scale. Let's say you wanted to have a small ship generated. You can adjust the scale, and you can see now it's tiny. I'm going to move it back up to 1. So if you want to generate models at a specific scale, you can do that. Next we have this point network. If you generate a model with a point network, then basically the model object that gets generated will have a point network script. Again, you can look at the references, but basically what this is it finds interesting points to shoot from. So you can see it gets the outline of the spaceship, and you can use these points to shoot from or place thrusters at. So under front points in here, you have a list of points that are good to shoot from, and back points are good places to use as thruster locations. Moving on, outline, and you also notice this is only available if you have a point network because it requires that. But if you click outline, you can adjust a few settings, and what this does is it creates a outline around the ship using a line renderer. You can see this is pink here because I don't have any material attached, so I'm going to go ahead and attach this line mat material. You can use that for a start if you want, and that'll just generate some interesting looking outlines around your ship. And start color and end color are pretty obvious. It'll adjust the color of the line renderer, and you can adjust the width of the line. Line segments you don't need to mess with. That'll get automatically adjusted based on the point network, how many points are on the ship. But width, color, and the material you can adjust. Next, approximate shape. I'm going to go ahead and turn this outline off for now, generate a new one. And I'm also going to clear the model. If you hit this clear model button, it'll just get rid of any model that have been generated. So this approximate shape section, this is kind of a little more details about how the model gets generated. So you notice if I turn it on and off, if I turn it on, I get a few more details. So first of all, there's this count variable. And what that does is it's how many perimeter points do we use in our polygon estimation of the ship. In order to generate this, we needed to convert the splines that we've adjusted into a polygon, just so we can generate the model. So you can see here as I adjust this count, it kind of adjusts how dense or how exact that polygon estimation is. So you just want to get a good approximation, make it high enough to get a good approximation of your shape, and that's all you need to worry about there. Next is this grid size. Basically, the way the model gets generated is that there's a 2D grid of points inside this square that gets, every point is tests if it's inside our shape or not, and these points are connected together to actually generate the model. So you can see here, if I adjust these values, I get more or less points, basically a more or less dense grid. Now with a really dense grid, you're going to get, like let's say we did 30 and 30, and then you generate it, you're going to get a really high polygon model. So it'll be a much better approximation of the shape that you've generated, but it might not look super great. I tend to think lower poly models look best, so something like 15 and 9 will get you some good results. And also, I found that a little higher density in the X direction tends to work better, but maybe that's just the types of shapes that I've created so far, so play around with that. But anyways, let's clear the model one more time. You can also use this to kind of see if you make this more dense, you can kind of see a 3D approximation of the ships that will get generated. All right, so that's what that's all about. I'm going to move that back to about 15 and 9 because that was getting good results. And then this next section with the splines, I'm going to go and skip that for 1 second and get back into it. This is related to how to actually design these ship frames. But I want to skip over to this generate model section real quick, and then we'll get back to this. These materials, these are the materials that actually get placed on the ship. So you can see right now I just have a simple unlit black and an unlit blue in this list. Now if I were to add a third material to this list, let's say purple, and generate it, you can see we now have 3 colors. And the way these are controlled is that basically the first item in this list is the primary color, we have a secondary color, a third color, and so on. Typically 2 or maybe 3 colors is best, but I'll leave that up to you. And then finally we have a random seed section. So if random seed is true, then it will just generate a bunch of ships over and over again. If you want to generate this same ship, say we generated ship 733, we really like it, then we can generate it over again. You can control this seed manually and basically recreate ships. So you never have to store any of these models in memory. You can generate them all in runtime. So we like 733, so you can just set the seed value to 733 and regenerate that ship that you like over and over again. Finally, this runtime test. Oh, and one more note on the seed. I kind of alluded to it earlier. The seed gets appended to the ship model that gets generated. So if we do have a random seed, you'll notice these numbers next to the models, and that's the seed that was used to generate that model. So if you find one you like, all you have to do is look at that number, and you'll be able to generate it again. Runtime test, that's so that you can hit play here, and if that is true, it'll basically generate a new ship every second or so. So you can just kind of see lots of variety, and you can, in runtime, you can actually adjust these splines and see what types of shapes make good results. All right, that's about it. Finally, you've seen me clicking this generate button that actually generates the ships, and then we can export these if we want these ship models as prefabs. So there's a path set up already: assets, plugins, procedural spaceships, exports, and if we go under there, there's a few included with the package already. So these are just a few of the ships that I've exported to kind of give you an idea of what they do. And so if you ever want to export your ships, you just have to click that button. You can give it your own name. We'll just create one called demo, export that, and you'll see now under this list there is a demo ship. So we just named a demo, but we also appended ship and the seed number name, so that just happens automatically, so that you can maintain the seed that was used to generate the ship. All right, so that's all the parameters. Let's go ahead and get into the fun part, which is designing these ship frames. So let's go back to that demo scene we had created. We just created a brand new ship designer in an empty scene. So you can adjust these splines by clicking on these handles and moving around. But when you first start out, there's not that many control points on the splines. So to add more, you can click add points at either one of these buttons. You have the red, the green, and the white spline. Where it adds those points is this ring. So we can move that ring around using this slider here around the spline, and then wherever we click add points, it'll add some more points at that position. And there's always 3 points that get added. One is the main control point on the spline, and then the other are the weight handles. So we can adjust the weight handles, and it'll be the spline from one point to another will be affected by the weights in between them. There's also a few shortcuts you can use. So if you hold Control and A, then you can use the scroll wheel to move this ring around as well. Instead of interfacing with this, you can Control A, it'll move the red one, Control S will move the green, and Control D will move the white. Now, as you're moving any of these, you can see I'm moving the red right now. I can right click and just add points. So that's just for a little ease of use there. So let's go ahead and drag this around and try and make something a little interesting here. Let's just make a ship shape with some wings. Move this in. So wherever you want a little more detail, just add in some more points. So move that ring around. I want a little more detail on these wings, so I'm going to add some more points there. And let's have some wings that kind of come forward a little bit. There you go. That's looking kind of like a spaceship here. Let's make this front a little more pointy. And I also want to adjust the top and the bottom, so let's make it look a little more sleek just by moving these points in a little bit. There you go. So we've got a decent looking spaceship here using our splines. So now let's go ahead into this approximate the shape section, and let's just generate one. You can hit this button, or you can also hit the G key. And if the controls in the editor are a little iffy, so if you just move the scene around a little bit, then they'll start to work. So if you're ever hitting G and it doesn't work, just move the screen a little bit. And you can notice I don't have any materials on my ship, so it just looks kind of wonky. Let's go ahead and add some materials. Let's make this one black and purple. Cool. Let's generate that. There you go. So we've got some pretty cool looking ships there. And if we wanted it to be a little more high poly, we can increase these values a little bit. You'll notice that if you try and enter in a positive value here, it will switch to an odd value, and that's just something with how the ship gets generated. We need one of these grids to be exactly down the middle, so we need an odd number in the X direction. That's all that is. But yeah, I think that's it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, go to our website, doggydoggames.com. Under support, you can shoot us an email, or just use whatever you want, and just email me at kurt@doggydoggames.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I hope you enjoy this tutorial on procedural spaceships. And if you make anything cool, feel free to share it with us on Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/doggydoggames or twitter.com/doggydoggames. All right, happy coding.